up, y'all? This is Antonio Moore coming to you from Tonetalks again. We're going to have a great discussion today. Been talking about it all week. We got some great guests coming in. Yvette Carnell from Breaking Brand. We got Zoe Williams from Dash Radio. And we're going to have this discussion about quick grit, instant relationships in the 21st century. You know, I'm here. I'm going to be talking about how the millennials, the millennials and the exennials. I just got a new term called the exennials. Basically, somebody who is between Generation X and the millennials, how they're coping with the lack of. And so, like, the whole concept of the show is kind of built around this idea that we have instant relationships built out of a Facebook, Bumble, Tinder era. And I just want to talk to y'all, see your feelings. We're gonna have a couple callers. We're gonna make sure that we get you in here so you can be part of the discussion, because this is our table to have dialogue. Now, you guys know that I always frame this around 7 questions, 7 or 8 questions, and I've been sharing them all week. The first one is gonna be: is the average millennial looking for a quick fix Disneyland relationship? Let me check and see if I got Yvette Carnell on the line. Hey, Yvette, are you there? Okay. Oh man, thank you for coming on my show again. I'm just gonna hold you for a few minutes here because I know you give that fire. And so you know the topic: quick grit, instant relationships in the 21st century. And while this is a race neutral discussion, I'm really focused in on African Americans as well. And I'm going to just deal with that first question with you. I always frame this around 7 or 8 questions. I shared those with you earlier. But I'm just framing this first one. Is the average millennial, and there's a new term I just learned, Yvette, called exennial. Someone that's between Generation X and millennial. My engineer hooked me up with that word. And so, is the average millennial looking for a quick fix Disneyland relationship? And so what I start to do when I frame that is, you got all these young blacks under the age of 35 dressing the same and going to Disneyland with no kids. And the thing is, I'm looking at them and they're jumping and becoming serial monogamous. If this one don't work, then that one will work. Nobody wants to go to counseling. And so I guess I'm asking you, do you see a problem with how millennials are digesting relationships?
Well, I think in terms of what they do, and are we talking about all millennials? We're talking about black millennials, African Americans.
Well, let's focus on African Americans.
Okay. Well, because everybody wants the trappings of being American without being American, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about Disney and when you talk about all that stuff, you want to, because the thing is, we really should have that 40 acres and a mule. We really should have everything that everybody, like when you gave that data, talking about, if you got a chance, get that piece of data again about how many, the white families that got $1 million, in terms of, when you look at that, what we try to do is we try to mimic that. And what you see is people, the easiest way to mimic that, anybody can have a wedding, anybody can go to a courthouse and get married and say, now I have kids, and you look as if you have achieved something, when actually, I don't know how you can say that procreation is synonymous with achievement.
No, I totally understand. And the data you're asking for is, we come back to this, and I was going to deal with it later, but Yvette pushing me into it now. Zoe just walked in, Yvette.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. 2 of my favorite people in the world, I'll say.
Oh, man, that's a compliment.
And they both light-skinned. I ain't going to say nothing.
Hysterical. Here we go.
Neapolitan niggas. No, but for real. Getting back to this. What I see is there's barely 380 out of 20 million black homes, barely 380,000 are worth more than $1 million. That's mostly your grandma and her pension, and so in her house in L.A., not in Louisville, not in Louisiana or Alabama. Basically, your grandma's house in L.A. and her pension, and somehow it got her to $1 million hard. And so what you see is that we don't really have a wealth class. But like people will say, well, you're giving a lot of power to white people as if slavery didn't happen. Whereas with white folk, 15% of their race is worth $1 million. And then what you got to understand is if you move into LA, it might jump to 25 or 30 because of the strong millionaires from the homes. And so long story short, I do agree with you that we feel like if we have a car and a house that we live in, we middle class. And the thing is,
which is the basics of survival. What you're talking about is like I have the basics. That doesn't mean anything. And it's funny when can I just say one thing? You just said something that was very interesting. You said people say we're giving white people too much power, as if we had any power to give away. Like, when did we get power and turn it away? When did we get power and say, here, take it back? There is this idea.
You didn't see Django?
Some sort of
you know, we fantastical in America. We love to use, Jamie Foxx whipping a white man as an example of American history.
We made it. We're here now.
Give me a whip and I'll be there. And what you don't understand is the construct. Yeah, the construct behind why, white America has so much wealth. Coming back to it, everybody, make sure you call in 323-879-4445. We having that discussion. Quick grit, instant relationships in the 21st century. Essentially, what made me think about this is we have this era of millennials, and so I just heard about a new term. Kurt gave it to me called exennials.
Exennials?
That's like Generation X and a millennial.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
As if we're
Kurt dropped that on me and walked
confused enough. Exennials. Yeah. Okay,
so
cool.
Nonetheless, I'm gonna include that group in this discussion as well. And what I think we failed to do, Yvette, and I'm gonna ask you to actually give this to me, is I think we don't do the threes. And I put this in, I did a promo video. Where are we going? What are we about? And where are we from? We don't do this basic analysis of math as if you don't do it, then you can just be Jay-Z. Dropout millionaire. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Yvette?
Exactly. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and these same outfits, all these same, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with being in love, but holding hands ain't being in adult love. We got this idea of love, relationship goals, BAE, B-A-E. And we got these ideas that if we hold hands hard enough, we can wish slavery away. And none of that works. And Yvette, I wanted to leave you on as we go into the second question. I'm going to frame these questions and we're going to have this discussion. Is technology making young women, and in some cases young men, stunted with the bunny ear pics and selfies, creating a new form of narcissism? What do you think? What do you think, Yvette?
Well, I think, I think you have to answer yes to that question. And I say this as somebody, I was reading a book the other day talking about how addictive and how people, executives Instagram, how Steve Jobs before he died, and all these people, they didn't even let their kids go on this stuff. Right? Because it's designed to be addictive. And I'm not saying we've all done it to some extent. I was on YouTube the other day and the stuff just kept playing and I just kept watching. So I try to, unless I'm watching something that's worth something, I try not to go on there and do too much over there. But listen, as a grown woman, I do not have the time in my day and in my intellectual capacity and fortitude to put bunny ears on. And if you tell me to do that, I'm going to tell you I'm grown. I don't do that. I don't have a problem with 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, high school. Have your fun. But there is something in terms of, like, when you talk about stunting relationships, you cannot be doing the thing that children do. Black people love to be Christians, but not think about the fact that it's in the Bible. You're supposed to put this childish stuff aside. So what is the repercussion of us not being able to put it aside and then trying to have adult lives and political lives and relationships and everything that goes along with being a grown person?
This is the thing. So I'm going to bring it to you. Yvette, you be on point. But let's make this gender specific. You know, one of the things that I've said before is that wealth inequality is exposing the differences between how black men and black women have to digest American history. What do you mean? So, you know, it's expected that men pay for dates. It's expected that men provide in a society. Well, at the same time, you see women valued by what? Their physicality. I'm not saying whether that's my choice or the world's choice. It's just what is. Would you agree, so?
I agree 100%. It's like it's almost like the physicality is a currency.
It's a currency. So what ends up happening is that you don't have to deal as much with the lack that comes from your lineage if you're a female in the way this society is structured. So what this technology has done, this is just a theory, is allowed them to expand the use of their physicality beyond eyesight into other states. And so, like, what's happening is while we have wealth inequality squeezing men, we have technology expanding women. What's your thoughts, though?
That's an interesting angle. This is how I see technology. Technology changes the world. It changes the social game rules. And I think we find ourselves at a nexus where you can't be a traditionalist as technology, what is it, double every 4 months or something crazy? Every 4 months, technology doubles. So that means the way we live, the way we interface, the way we interact has to change. And I think what happens is when it comes to relationship beliefs, we get dogmatic, almost like in a religious sense. Well, I saw my grandmama and they live like this, and I believe I could duplicate that. Well, a lot of your grandmother and grandfather's beliefs and ideations about relationship came from a time, you know, from their generation where that made sense. But now things are changing to such a degree that a woman even looking at a man to, hey, man, you need to be a man and pull out my chair, or be a man and pay for my dinner. Now that's starting to shift just based on the sheer numbers and the advancement of women. Like the ideas for women being better educated, being better employed, like a lot of that stuff is putting women in a position to where they're making more money, they're doing better than the men they're expecting to show chivalry. Right? Like you expecting this?
Yeah, and what's interesting is Yvette, I'm gonna throw this back to you, and I'm gonna ask you: do we have an issue with ego petting here? So, like, essentially, I mean, if he not gonna tell me I'm beautiful, it's hundreds of men who will. Right,
especially with the advent of IG and, you know, likes and, you know, the like culture, all of that.
And so, and Yvette, you know, I know you're still there. What do you think about that?
About having a problem with the likes? I'll be honest with you. I think the problem is that the way everything is constructed now, in terms of, especially in terms of, like, you know, the heterosexual relationships, is that it hasn't kept up with the times. Part of the reason that back in the day, and white feminism is not black feminism, and does black feminism exist in that way, right? Because part of the reason he was pulling out the chair, that's a sense of ownership.
Right.
That means
that
you're a property piece, right? That means that you at that point are a property piece. If you want to tune in and you're having any issues on YouTube, go to the App Store, get the Dash Radio app, press the Dash Talk. We having this discussion. We're gonna bring callers in soon.
That was heavy though.
323-879-4445. But let's go back to this. If I got $10 in my pocket, it's $5 for a car wash, $3 for a burger, and I'm gonna have $3 left. Who I'm supposed to, or $2 left? Who I'm supposed to spend that on? Yeah, and I think that we want what's happening now is we're in a flux where it's like spend it on me, but then I'll keep my 10 in my pocket. In fact, my 15 based on Zoe's math.
Yeah, but if you spend it on me, you gotta have a relationship like my parents' relationship. My mama ain't going nowhere, right? And she wasn't never going nowhere. So it didn't matter. Like, spending the money on her was spending the money on him. And like, there was an exchange, and it was a given that you weren't going. And it was a thing like, protect me. Like, when you say you have to protect me, you have to pull out the chair. You have these responsibilities to me.
See,
What
but
you're basically like, people
Yvette,
don't understand that. Like, women in this country used to be not to black men, but like this goes back to a kind of a culture where white men had money. So basically, I'm doing this because you don't even you're proper. You don't have the right to vote. Like, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So,
Yvette, let's make this visual
black men can't buy their women.
let's make this visual in context of this discussion. When you go to the store, there's two kind of oatmeals. There's the version that says old fashioned, and then there's the one that says ready in 30 seconds. Well, it sounds like what you're. No, for real. It's two kinds, and the version that says old fashioned, it's big and thick and hearty, and you gotta add raisins and nuts and maple sugar and milk
And butter.
and put it on the stove and let it simmer. Go ahead. That sounds like your mama's relationship.
Yeah, but can I say something? Ain't nothing worth nothing ready in 30 seconds.
Ooh.
Like you and I talk. I cook beans. I cook stuff that takes. I cook rice. I take stuff that takes a minute. Like the stuff, because I know that the stuff that's nutritious for me, it takes time. So when you look at this instant, anything that's instant, you use the example of food. That's a great food. It would be much better if you got the rolled oats. The rolled oats, you got to cook them on the stove for a while. They ain't ready like that. Now, will it keep you alive? You can eat instant food and be alive. The question is, what kind of life do you want?
Yeah, Kurt, what I want to do is go to a commercial break, let Yvette go, and we're going to continue this
I
discussion.
love Yvette, man. Can we have her a few more minutes?
Oh, man. Yvette, hold on then. Joe wants to leave you on.
Let's
Let's
love
go to a
her,
commercial
man.
break real quick.
All right.
Get on. Beats by Nibs.
What up, y'all? This is Antonio Moore coming back to you with Tone Talks on the Dash Radio app. Apologize to you guys. I didn't have the Mevo connected to the Ethernet cord, so I had it going by Wi-Fi. That's why I was buffering. You can go back to the YouTube channel.
You had like some bootleg connection going on over here.
Here we go. He got the Jackie Robinson hat on.
Yeah.
Zoe got the Negro League hat.
Yeah,
Come on, let's go. So I just got a great point. Yvette, are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh man, I just got a fire point. So I have a true millennial here, and I'm more of an exennial, and I don't know what you and Zoe are. But
it's like that.
I'm sorry. I'm just messing with y'all.
I mean, look, I get it. I know what hate looks like. I'm a Generation Xer. It's fine.
But look, no, nonetheless, what he made the point of is that by the time millennials came around, parents started putting vacations and all that on credit cards. Whereas when you look at my childhood and yours, it was like what we have is what we spend. And
That's
so
right.
like millennial African Americans is what we're focused on, have a misconstrued idea of wealth because the parents actually took them places and bought things they couldn't afford. There wasn't no credit card in 1977. You had to spend cash or the numbers man owed you. You owed the numbers man.
Right.
Anybody ever bought something from the numbers man for grandma? So nonetheless, I mean, what do you?
For my mama.
Okay. I mean, what do you think of that point?
Going to the numbers lady's house and the door was kicked in. Yeah, I know.
What do you think about that point that I just made?
Well, it's true. You know, they gave us access to something that wasn't real because that's Black life right now. Nothing in Black life is real. It's all like this imagination. But they gave us all of these dreams, and then they said, you know what? We're not going to give you the money to do it, but here's the credit card because this credit card is going to make us rich. So it's going to allow you to believe that your dreams have been fulfilled, but it's going to put more money in our pockets, and you won't be the wiser.
Wow. I agree. And so what I think has happened, let's move along with these questions, has Tinder and Facebook created a world where no one wants to choose anyone permanently. There's always somebody better around the corner. Please call in to 323-879-4445. Zoe, do you find that to be something that's going on? Everybody,
Too many superficial options.
You know, somebody in Brazil that speaks Spanish liked my picture.
Yeah. Too many superficial options.
You don't even speak Spanish.
Right. You know what I mean?
I'm fluent. I don't know about y'all.
Relationships are about the substance of the person, of the two people involved. It's about self-discovery. It's about seeing parts of yourself that maybe, you know, you don't choose to look at. Relationships, I always say, is a highly reflective classroom where the feedback you get from your partner is your personal curriculum. It shows you what you should work on as a person. This is why I always tell the people I coach, don't blame, claim. So if you're getting a particular type of feedback, it's easier to say, oh, well, they brought this out of me, or they did this, or they did that. But it's really about you saying, well, you're triggered by this for a reason, and here's an opportunity for you to discover. Now, that deepens your meaning of self. Like this is who I am. This is what I'll tolerate. This is what I won't tolerate. This is what I now understand about myself. Now, that makes you a better relationship partner. The internet, with all of its endless superficial options, speeds that process up to where now it's instead of substance, it's more geared towards stimulation. You feel what I'm saying?
Somebody just said they speak Portuguese in Brazil. I apologize to all the Brazilians out there. I didn't mean no disrespect. It was meant as an analogy.
Why you said that?
I know. You know why? Because I'm black. Now let me keep going.
Oh, Jesus, here we go.
Now let me keep going here. Look. We got a caller on the line, but before we go to the callers, I don't want nobody calling in here that isn't ready to be honest. And also, please have your point ready, because when you come in, you got lions in here. You got Zoe Williams, you got Yvette Carnell, and you got Antonio Moore. So if you wrong, you might not make it out the den.
We're coming for you. No,
I'm just saying. Don't come in here timid. So we're going to go to the first caller. Let's bring him in. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Antonio, this is Jay calling from New Jersey.
Oh, I love when I get across the country calls. That tell us our reach. So, Jay, what's your point on this?
Hey, man, I just want to give my perspective. I am a millennial. I'm 28 years old, and I agree with the Facebook and Tinder access that's now out there, or it's been out there for the last few years. But basically, it's added a sense of convenience for a lot of us, both men and women. You don't have to get out your house. You don't have to really do a whole lot to form or create a genuine relationship. A point that I'll bring up, I'm not sure if you touched on it, but myself, I'm 28, like I said, and I'm working 2 jobs, 6 or 7 days a week, and I'm meeting, women as well who also have a full-time and a part-time or 2 part-time. So when you have this scrap for money, when we working, between 40, 50 hours between 2, 3 jobs, our relationships sit on the back burner. So it's easy to pull out our phone to say, hey, swipe right, swipe left.
Right.
And that's the convenience. So I just want to, get straight to the point. I don't want to hold you guys up and ramble, but that's my perspective on everything.
Oh, you're not holding us up.
No, that
man.
was good.
That was a powerful point.
Good point.
That was
That's a valid point.
Right.
so many. I think that the combination of just broken lines. You come from somebody maybe that didn't have 2 parents in the household, and then you throw Tinder on them. That's a bad mix, and like particularly if the person isn't grounded. I'm not saying that we can't work through things in this lifetime, but we have to do the work. And I think so many of us are not doing that work. And what's happening is what we're getting is mosh posh mix. Everybody frustrated with everybody about stuff that you should have known walking in the door.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What do you think about that, Zoe?
Here's the thing, man. And I always use this as a baseline. The only way a person can enhance or bring something to your life is if they first battled their demons. You hear Confucius say this all the time. He who can control a lot of men is, he's powerful, but he who can control himself is great. So again, in relationships, we've turned relationships into a type of convenience store. I'm going into it with the same mindset as I walk into a 7-Eleven. I'm going in to pick up something, to get something. And a lot of times the whole process of what they're trying to get has nothing to do with what they should be reconciling within themselves. Relationship is a hospital for the soul. You're supposed to go there not to hide from yourself, but to reveal yourself. Now, part of being in a capitalistic society puts you in a position to be a type of relationship broker or mercenary. What can I get from you? If I'm not getting what I want from you, this is a waste of my time. So
I'm a ghost you.
You understand what I'm saying? So really the purpose of being in a relationship is the same purpose of being at UCLA. You're going there for higher learning. But this higher learning comes in the form of the reflections that you get from your partner. That's the higher learning. Wow, I'm triggered by somebody who mirrors me. I'm a poor communicator, but I'm quick to say they're a poor communicator. Yet, I haven't even identified my communication style and how that may contribute to what I have now termed we have communication issues, or they don't know how to communicate with me. You get what I'm saying?
You better stop. I know you about to make Yvette cry.
No.
Jesus.
You know what was so deep about what Zoe just said? He said people say, well, we have communication issues. They never say, I have a communication problem.
Right.
And that goes to ownership. You don't want to own the issue. I have an issue, and I'm going to try to fix it. Going to 7-Eleven, when you go to 7-Eleven, you go to 7-Eleven for that example because you don't have time. I don't have time to fix this. This is what I want. I have a list that I made before I got here. I have a list. I want this house. I want this car. I want somebody who make this job. I want this money. This is what I want. I don't want to hear none of that stuff you talking about building inside or whatever. We can get that after I get what I want.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's what Zoe talks about. That was so deep in terms of, the hospital for the soul. What you have is people ain't got time for that. I can swipe by you right now and just I ain't got time to be doing all the work that goes into building anything.
So let's
big.
let's go back to this. So what you guys are saying is that they adding a little bit of water,
Right.
some instant grit, and a little time, and trying to come out with a full relationship where you can hold people accountable, right?
I love the metaphor because it doesn't take much to maintain the facade.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it's instant quick grits. Yes, it takes the minimal amount of effort to maintain the mask.
But then what's the trip is you want to be hearty afterwards and full,
Right.
right?
Well, the relationship is about achieving fulfillment. Now, the difficulty in achieving fulfillment, the number one problem with that is the pursuit of fulfillment outside of yourself.
Somebody just said, I think men have an unrealistic exception for what I think she meant to say expectation for what a relationship is. Yeah. I think this is a issue that we have with Americans in general, but particularly shows up with African Americans because in my theory, we're the most American people here because we just experienced this thing with no counterculture.
Wow.
I've made that point before. Everybody else tries to be us, not because we're poor, not because we're cool, but because we're so American.
But I would like for that person to expound on that thought, to say
Call in.
men have an unrealistic expectation of relationship. Now, I will say this. Men and women have this, sometimes it's kind of ironclad belief on what their role is and what they're responsible for, right? So now you got men complaining, right, about women of this generation who don't cook.
Wait. Zoe, I just pulled from the National Healthy Marriage Resource Center. You can
Here we go.
Google
Here
this.
we go.
You know Tone ain't gonna come up in here without no
I know.
data.
I'm already there with you.
We
I
not
already
having
know.
this discussion on emotion.
You got some grits data.
Right.
I'm not finna fight with you and you hit me with no pot.
Right.
So essentially what they said is African American mothers in urban cities have strong pro-marriage attitudes, yet they are least traditional in their attitudes about gender roles in marriage.
See.
Woo!
See.
So what is this?
Can you say cognitive dissonance?
I can.
It's-
Let me do one last thing. So, Yvette, Carnell, let me ask you, do you want to say something last to the audience about Breaking Brown and what you have going on? Because I want to let you go.
Well, yeah, I want to tell everybody that Breaking Brown's going to be back soon. I will announce it on my Facebook page. I'll put a video on YouTube letting everybody know. But I'm going to be doing a video soon about Donna Brazile. That book came out, and I read the book, read that joint in 2 days, and it's a lot of stuff in there. And I don't know why black people, regardless of how you feel about Donna, I don't know why more black people aren't reading that book, but we're going to talk about it.
So
Awesome.
So I restarted the feed. We here. You can go to the YouTube page. We're going to be streaming live. We also on the Dash Radio at Press Dash Talk. We can let Yvette go. Essentially, what we're
Appreciate your work,
what
Yvette.
we're going to do is you can call
Appreciate you, though.
Oh no, I appreciate Yvette all day.
Man, for real.
For real.
She's slapping fools upside the dome piece. I love it.
And Yvette, don't be calling us from the room no more. Let's go. All right. 323-879-4445. You can call in. Quick grit, instant relationships in the 21st century. Caller, let's bring this caller in. Caller, what is your name? Where are you calling from?
Is it me, you guys?
Caller, what is your name? Where are you calling from? You on?
It's Leroy from Miami.
Oh, man. We went from New Jersey to Miami. We flying around.
We on the East Coast, pimp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. I try to call in as often as possible because I'm a big fan of you and Yvette. And I actually, I think I found you guys through Boyce, but I've been listening to Zoe since Speedy Comedy Corner days. So
Oh, wow.
it's been, yeah, Zoe. It's been that long, player.
Wow.
I used to listen to him with Dizzy Gillespie.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, man. So I just wanted to say I'm a millennial. I'm 31, and what I see with our relationships, it's crazy because you always have to be positive almost, and you always have to be on the hustle. And what I mean by that is like I think Jay-Z and Beyonce's relationship really screwed up my generation because unlike Zoe grew up, Zoe is like almost the same age as Jay, so he he didn't have that influence that my generation.
Don't give
had.
Zoe that many
My
years. He is
generation
not the same
aspires
age as
to that.
Jay. Zoe Williams, let me kill this viral news before it go too far. Zoe Williams is not Jay-Z's age. All right.
I didn't say he was Jay-Z's age.
He said almost. He close. He right around the corner from Jay-Z.
Yeah, he ain't that far. But I'm saying my generation, my age group, we were influenced by Jay-Z and Beyonce's relationship, and so we aspire to that, not understanding like the dynamics, not understanding that Jay-Z is a high school dropout that found himself into like $500-600 million. We don't understand like how that dynamic works. We don't understand like Beyonce was a damn child prodigy fucking singer dancer. We don't understand how that works and how we're like not gonna be like that. And we also don't understand like when right now what's going on with millennials and my age millennials is that we really want this kind of black men, from what I'm seeing, they kind of want something patriarchal. Black women kind of want that also in a lot of ways.
Caller. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do, caller. I want to give everybody a chance to call in. I want to deal with that first point. Let me.
He said something.
Let's go back to this Jay-Z, Beyonce example. Thank you for calling. Essentially, what I want to do is say, we got to understand that, I'm doing a major research piece with Sandy Darity. He's one of the leading economists in the whole area of intergenerational economics. And so what I want you to understand is that black celebrity started with Motown, moved into the Cosby Show, and Jay-Z and Beyonce are just the most recent iteration. And I think for so many of us, we don't understand. Capital got really good at how they was going to deal with civil rights.
Wow.
Capital got really good at how they was going to make black people feel good about themselves without giving them too much. And it started before Jay-Z. Don't get me wrong. I think he played his role. You can go Google this article in salon.com, the hip hop distraction of Brooklyn, where it talks about how the Brooklyn Nets was just a game where they used Jay-Z and he owned little to nothing of the Brooklyn Nets. And he was the face man, like I'm the owner.
Right.
And I guess my point is to say we can't get caught looking too close to the point where we don't see the larger picture. And that larger picture is that something's going on here.
Right.
There's a reason that quick grit relationships make your stomach full. and I think part of it is because you ain't never had no hearty meal.
Wow.
And the thing is, when you do get that hearty meal, you tend to run because it's just too heavy for you.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow. So let me address just a little piece of the Jay-Z thing. Jay-Z, Beyonce. Jay-Z's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. He figured out a way, to flip his existence. And I applaud him for that. But what the millennials need to understand with the aspirational thinking that comes from, being raised in, his influence, his era of dominance is this. There's a difference between possibility and probability. A lot of times we are looking at people going, oh, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Anything is possible, but not everything is probable.
But see, this is what the caller is actually alluding to. And I take a different view about Jay-Z. I take the view that he got lucky. He was timed really well. I represented Skee-Lo from the song I Wish. And I just think that if you was in that window in the right part of Brooklyn.
I agree with that too.
You can use some kind of talking to make some money.
I agree with that too, but he still had to be somewhat.
So let me just add this part though.
Yeah.
You got to be really good at manipulating black folk. You right. And that's what that article shows. You got to be really good at manipulating the very thing you're saying black folks need to be aware of. So you got to be really good at telling black folks that anything is possible in your music. And then you want black folks.
That was genius.
But I think it's actually horrible.
I'm not saying it was good. I'm just saying it was smart to take advantage of that.
See, and I argue it's horrible. See, I think we call something smart when it's actually easy to manipulate people ready to be manipulated. And I think that what we have is a generation, when we look at Xennials, Generation X, Millennials, whose parents primed them to be aspirational. And capital used the worst of us to tag on that. And what's happening is that feeding into our relationships as we begin to make empire talk, the reality behind how we see sound relationship. So rubbing your feet ain't enough. I need to get you a spa massage.
Right.
At Birkenstone. What is it called? Birkin something.
William Burke.
You know, one of them things. So let's go. I got a caller on the line. I'm gonna ask this caller about my next question. Let's bring him on the line. Caller, what is your name? Where are you calling from?
Odell, calling from Virginia.
Odell from Virginia.
Hey Odell. Before you make your point, go ahead and make your point, and then I'll bring in the question.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say, first of all, man, I've been listening to you, man, listening to Yvette, man. I really appreciate y'all guys giving a real, because you got a lot of people, you know, trying to motivate people, inspire people with no tangibles to go behind it. So I appreciate that from you guys, giving that real data.
Yeah, data matters. Data matters. That's Yvette Carnell saying, and I believe talking to all the economists, data matters, and we've been living our life on everything but data. But go ahead and make your point. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, I want to say we live in a capitalist society, and what happens is in a capitalist society, we spend most of our time building companies, cultivating companies, and we spend less time cultivating families and building families, and we have like a very little time to do so. And the problem is, being that we live in this capitalist society, we're not paying attention, because then we turn around and we blame ourselves, we blame each other, and we take it out on each other because we don't have that much time. And then on top of that, you will have, you know, people like Dr. Boyce Watkins, you know, hyping everybody. You can do this. You don't need that, blah, blah, blah. So it motivates somebody, okay, I need to do my own, you know, like get a second job or try to start another business. So what happens is now you're spending more time. You're working for somebody, and at the same time you're trying to build a business. So that's more time away from your family. So you know, your intent is good, but at the same time, you know, a family is a job. A family, it takes, just like it takes to cultivate anything else, it applies to, you know, building a family.
So, caller, let me put that. You just led into my question. I think you reading my notes, my man. So this is what I'm gonna put to you, and so I'm gonna say, in a world of wealth calcification, that means that the top 1% has all the money. In a world of wealth calcification, what is the motive to be in black love if there's no black wealth? What if we work too much for love? You Uber at night and deliver for UPS during the day.
I don't even think you're working for love in that context.
Okay.
I think you're just working to survive. You know.
But my question is, do you even got the space? So like essentially, you meet somebody and you mad at them, but they not ready on Tuesday at 8.
The question is so. Listen. Most people are living that life that you just described in the question.
Hold up, 15%. What did I say?
Right.
So 15% of white America has $1 million.
Right.
We know a third of them has 500 or more. Are most white people? Are most educated white people? No. So you have black families mimicking upper middle class white families with no wealth, driving Uber at night.
Right.
Arguing.
Right.
Come on, man. What do you think, caller? Give me your opinion on it.
I mean, it's oh my God, it's almost impossible to have a healthy relationship. You know, trying to keep up with the Joneses and at the same time, you know, make somebody happy and give them the proper attention. You know, I think we indirectly just we blame ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was in, you know, I'm currently dealing with a situation like that. You know, I work, and I work long hours. She worked long hours, and we have little time. But, you know, when the time is little, so I have to pretty much throw everything in this small little window. So it makes that time even smaller. So what happens is the blame, we're not saying, hey, this is not our fault, let's work through it. It's like, you don't have time for me. You need to drop something. But yet I don't want you to drop anything because the lifestyle is
you're
working you're working to live
instead of living. See the eras before us lived to work. I mean they work to live. I'm sorry, they work to live.
Mm-hmm.
Right now what we're doing is living to go to work. And so,
That's
like,
it.
what I think is happening is, and caller, thank you for calling in.
That was a good point.
I'm trying to bring in as many callers as possible. The middle black family in this country being worth $4,000 means something when you take out the family car. It means that you're not necessarily all that stable. One of the things that you're supposed to show as a man to a woman is stability, right, Zoe?
Right.
And so if you can't show stability, what you do is what? You give promises and compliments. I told you this before, and I'm coming to it, Zoe.
Promises
So what we have
and compliments.
What we have today is black men don't have much wealth, and so neither do black women. But as I made the point earlier, not measured by wealth because women aren't measured that way.
Tone, I gotta interrupt you real quick.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but somebody in the chat room, Theo Washington, says, Zoe, you gotta get Tone longer than an hour, family.
Okay.
Here we go. So I want you to deal with that real quick.
Oh, snap. Look.
So they can get it off me. They putting it on me right now.
Look. The reality is, I don't want to be in the situation I'm describing right now where I don't have enough time for my family.
How many hours did I give you to start?
No, come on, Zoe. Don't take this away from me, Zoe. No, but look, let's make this point. So again, what we have is a situation where black men, as a result of not having wealth, use compliments and promises. So I promise to take you to the moon. I ain't got no astronaut license. I ain't got no jet, but I'm gonna take you to the moon. And I mean that figuratively. That means I'm gonna buy the house that's $750,000.
Right.
And I have a 500 FICO, and grandma ain't leaving me nothing.
Wow.
On the other side, compliments. Hey, baby, you're the best looking thing I've ever met in the world. But you got a daughter and a mama still alive.
Wow.
And so, like, what happens is that's what people get hooked on. And if you're not doing it, somebody else will. Somebody will go to one knee in the middle of a restaurant and tell you, oh, you the one I've been looking for all my life.
Right.
And I think that black men have become weak in that way.
So we're talking about now the social pressure to be a provider.
Well, the social pressure to be a provider of ego strokes.
We just talked about the black man because we already just covered keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
We already covered, hey, 15% of the white race are millionaires.
White families.
We already covered that, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now there's an inherent pressure to be a provider, to mimic that kind of lifestyle if we're looking at the black man in a traditional sense with regards to the gender role. Protection and provision.
Yeah.
How is he going to keep up with that when wealth is calcifying the way that it is?
By changing the idea of what is security and making that security about ego strokes.
But he can't change the idea unless the woman goes along with it. And typically it is the women that are creating the ideas for a relationship, and men are molding their behaviors to fit the ideas of women's idea of relationship.
Okay, man. We got, look, Zoe, you can't be coming with that. Call-in number is 323-879-4445. Essentially, what I want to do is pose one last question and go to the caller. Caller, you can bring them in, and then I'm going to pose it. Caller, what is your name? Where are you calling from? So I'm going to go ahead and pose this question. And the question is, has the amount of opportunities presented a world, meaning Facebook, Tinder, Bumble, and all this, where the 20s and 30s are me time, then around 40, the biology clock is ticking. And this is particularly for women, but also for men, where it's like, I just picked the first person that's decent. And you done turned down all these decent people along the way. And so, I let's bring in the other caller if we can't get this one. Caller,
you got callers.
What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. So I just posed the question of whether people are using their 20s and 30s to basically freewheel, and then around 40, they just pick the most decent person that's around. What do you think?
Well, I'm 24 years old, so I'm as millennial as they come.
Okay.
And I am sad to say coming out of a divorce right now. So I'm gonna give you my perspective at least. Man, from my parents and their parents and their parents, we've already got issues. So there's a lot that collects when it comes to me. But a lot of what we don't do is just talk up front. So then down the line, we have issues and problems. And it could be simple things just like background. Like me having an Army brat background and somebody else coming from the city. But those values, what you don't know is those values play into your dad or my dad constantly being there for me and my family, and your dad or your mom constantly going out working or something like that. So fast forward down the line, when you have issues like you and your family or your kids and getting more expensive as a just natural family goes forward, and you can't provide or something, it's going to cause issues on the woman's end. Or if you thought that when you got money, she was going to start cooking or something, the bills weren't nothing to worry about, and she doesn't do it, it becomes an issue. So it's like, I don't think it's a lot of, we look for quick instant gratification in the beginning and then slow down at the end. I think it's just a lot of upfront, we don't do what we should be doing to not mess up at the end, if that makes sense.
Caller, let me say two things. We know by the data that over 70% of first-time black marriages for black females, particularly, end in divorce. And so, like, what I think is also needs to be acknowledged here is a lack of context of what marriage is supposed to be and what marriage needs to survive.
Man, most definitely. I can tell you right now, I had an argument with my ex now, and just to give you some context, we had an argument about my history, because my mom and my dad were always bouncing around, military life and whatnot, and that affects what I know as being a man right now, as opposed to my ex who comes from like country life. So we were in an argument, right? Blah, 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 blah. And she says, "Haven't you seen Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Don't you know what it means to be a man?"
Wow.
Like,
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Wait. Let's frame
Uncle Phil.
Let's frame that. Caller.
Yeah,
Because I was
like,
caller. I was gonna make the same point. The other thing that we see is I experienced this in LA. My parents had me really young, 16, 17. And so what happens is that they weren't together. So I mean they're 16, 17. But I got really educated. LA is extracting its few black people from boomer two-parent households primarily. So what you have, and the thing is, that's not a national norm. And so what you get is you don't understand how abnormal your situation really is for the rest of black America. And so what happens is boomer hooked people, and I call them boomer hooked because your life is not only through the lens of a boomer, but basically a boomer has propped you up, paid for your car, pay for your school, pay for your house, just like a white person. I don't know how they did it on credit cards, like Kurt said before, and refis, but they did it. I didn't get that done, but I represent black folk. I don't know what you represent. And this is by the data. So what ends up happening is, now knowing the data, what ends up happening is black folk don't want to hear. You might not be able to speak for black folk. And you need to just understand that and I'm going to your example, what you're saying about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is not only an aberration, but it's fantastical. That was a $15 to $20 million house that a judge was walking around with a black butler that stayed on their estate.
Right.
Impossible.
Man, I'm going to say these last two things, and I'm going to let y'all go, and I appreciate y'all.
You going to let us go, or we going to let you go? Which one?
I appreciate that. But man, I think just to touch on the last thing you said, it's a black issue, an African American issue where we don't understand the reality of what we're watching, like the Cosby Show or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But outside of that, just on a human level, we kind of tend to sort of, if me and my family are all living this kind of way, or we all experience this, then that means it applies to you as well. That means that it's like that for everybody. And it was like I had a hard time just connecting and telling her, like, I get what you have as an experience as what a man should be. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong.
See, that's my problem, though, caller. That's my problem, is that the data sets a middle. And what happens is we get to a point where we want to recognize everybody's situation, and some people have really abnormal situations for black America. Right. And they what they're doing is making you come over to them, and they don't understand. You're a princess that really represents a fringe experience in this black America. I just came from Louisville, and I seen somebody living in a $15,000 house. For real. And so, like, you got to understand that in Louisiana, and when you look at the racial dot map of America, we're gonna be off the line pretty soon. Black people live all through the South, and they live in poverty, in hookworms, in small homes. But you got these people in L.A., in San Francisco, in New York, and Maryland.
Right.
And basically, those are all the black people that are getting into Apple and into all the big jobs, and they saying, well, there's wealthy black
You guys are
people
doing
too.
well.
There's wealthy black. No, it's like dude,
You can too.
Right.
Yeah.
Pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
And so, caller, I think there's a push-pull, and you as a man saying, no, your experience is an aberration. I respect it and understand where you come from, but you must understand where Black America stands so that we can raise a family that's grounded. And caller, thank you so much for calling in.
You know what, Tone? I think a book is in order. There's a book out called Men on Strike. And it's talking about men in general, not just black men, but men in general, written by a female PhD. Her name is Helen Smith, PhD, Men on Strike. And it talks about the reason men are opting out of marriage, family, education, because she's saying basically it's a lose-lose situation, especially in marriage.
This is race neutral, too.
This is race neutral. So this takes me back to Jeff Brown's point when he says, if America is sick, Black America has pneumonia.
Yes.
So again,
cancer.
We got cancer, stage 4. So to enter a relationship with expectations from the dominant society where you have none of the resources that they have, to me, is a recipe for failure.
And you telling somebody else to actually finish the pot.
Right.
Put all the look, I got the water.
Right.
And we making gumbo. Bring the sauce, the shrimp, the chicken, the broccoli.
And be a man while you're at it.
But I got the water.
Right. I want you to be a man.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Do you not see the systemic shit going on that affects me directly?
No, I'm on Facebook.
How can you be socially blind as it pertains to relationship building?
Be gonzo. Nonetheless, this is Tone Talks coming to you. I wanted to close this on a positive note, though. And what I'm seeing from us is these quick grit, instant relationships aren't going to answer everything that we're going through here in this country, everything that we're going through with each other. What we need to start doing is at least take the steps that we control. One of those is counseling. I myself went to West Angeles counseling for no other reason than just going in there and just talking some things through. I think that other African Americans can benefit from that. If you're here in Los Angeles, look up the West Angeles website. They have counseling services there. I think it's like $20 for an hour. It's not much. But then also, if you're outside of Los Angeles, there's a website called regain.us, and they have counseling that you can sign up for. I think so many of us as African Americans don't understand. Ain't gonna be no instant fix for this. What we need to do is start looking past just holding hands and wearing the same tennis shoes. And start talking about what religion are you? Where your people from? Who was you in your last relationship with? In a sense, we need to start asking, who are you? Instead of projecting who you are for me. And I think for us as Black people, it's even more important because we're entering another kind of phase. A phase where capital is, you can search for something on Amazon, on the internet, and Amazon gonna follow you all around, telling you about that same thing.
Right.
And we got to understand that is capital on the move. That is how Bezos got so rich. And we got to understand how we're going to resolve that. Go to tonetalks.org to subscribe, to donate. Please support Zoe Williams' channel because I love what he talks about. He brings the ladies in. And they have that great discussion about all kind of different relationship topics. They go on right before me, 5 to 7 here in the Dash Radio app as well. Thank you so much for tuning in today.